Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a semi-new podcast in which we discuss Denver sporting news, we break down the games, and we talk about what's to come for the teams we love, all through the lens of a bettor. This is the Denver Dollar, and I'm your host, Daniel Shalansky. Without further ado, let's get to it. Now, the Nuggets play in the second half of a back-to-back tonight. The date today is March 24th, 2021. Now, before I even dive into some numbers or even talk about the injuries or everything relevant to this game, one thing I want to discuss is that there is a narrative that I often buy into, and that is you should not bet on a team in the second half of a back-to-back, especially when they have to travel. Now, you might be thinking, oh, they just played against the Orlando Magic, and now the Nuggets are playing in a back-to-back the next night against the Toronto Raptors. That would normally require a flight from Orlando to Toronto. And in that case, I would absolutely tell you to bet against the Nuggets. One example of this, which I was actually not so privy to this, there were a lot of extenuating factors that I didn't know about, was when the Nuggets played against the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis one night and then came back to Denver and played against the Dallas Mavericks the next night. The reason that one was so difficult was because the Nuggets had their game against Memphis. They flew out that night and they didn't land in Denver until 2 a.m. And then they had COVID testing at 8 a.m. that next day. That day I did say to bet on the Nuggets, but I was totally unaware of the fact that they would have to take COVID testing at 8 a.m. Even worse than that, they weren't able to rest because there was something wrong with the COVID testing and they had to retest at noon that day. So they weren't able to take naps throughout the day. They only got a maximum of, 5.5 hours of sleep from the Denver if it only took them 30 minutes to drive from the Denver airport to their house, and then they immediately fell asleep. That one was really difficult. The reason I'm saying that you don't need to buy into that narrative today is due to the fact that they're not the Toronto Raptors this season. They're the Tampa Bay Raptors. They only have to take about a 45-minute bus ride this morning from Orlando to Tampa Bay. So it is not nearly as difficult of a back-to-back as you might see. It's not like it's a home back-to-back where they just get to go back to their houses. They did not sleep at home. So it's not going to be great for them, but it's not as bad as it typically is, and I just wanted to discuss that because I know a lot of us, especially because I recommend it here on the Denver Dollar, say that narratives are important, and one narrative that we really buy into here is the back-to-back fallacy that you should never bet on a team in the second half of a back-to-back. Now, with that said, let's talk about the two teams playing tonight. The Toronto Raptors, or the Tampa Bay Raptors, are pretty healthy, and that does not mean that they've been playing well. And by pretty healthy, I mean completely healthy. They have no one listed on their injury report. Every single player on their team is at full strength, and they will be at full strength tonight versus the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets, however, are missing 3 players. They're missing Sasquatch, aka Greg Whittington. He has not played a lot. We saw him in a few games, actually, so I guess the Sasquatch nickname doesn't really need to stick, but we have Greg Whittington is out with a knee injury. That is nothing new. That's nothing to worry about. Gary Harris is again absent with a thigh injury, again on March 16th. I said this last show, Coach Malone did say to expect Gary Harris to miss an extended period of time with this thigh injury. So again, the Nuggets will be without him. And again, the Nuggets will be without Monte Morris. He has a quadricep injury. He has been out for about a week now. Again, on the Toronto Raptors side of the ball, no one is injured. So despite the Nuggets injury woes, they've still been very hot as of late. In fact, of their last 13 games, they've won 10 of them. They've won 4 out of their last 5 games. They're scoring the ball like crazy. They're playing better defense than they've played all season. And I can absolutely not say the same for the Tampa Bay Raptors. Now, the Raptors have lost 9 games straight, which is absolutely crazy for them. They started the season off really slow, and then it seemed like they were getting back into their game. But over the course of the last 9 games, the fact that they have not been able to seize a single victory is a really bad sign. On top of that, another terrible sign is the Houston Rockets had lost 20 games in a row, and that was until last night. The Houston Rockets played against the Toronto Raptors, and guess which team won? the Rockets won. So the Raptors have lost 9 in a row, and that includes a loss to a team that had lost its 20 games prior to their game against the Raptors. So the Raptors are ice cold and the Nuggets are red hot. I think we know where we're going with this. Let's dive into the numbers. Now, the Nuggets are favorited in this game, but not by a huge margin. If you take the Nuggets on the money line, you are locked in at minus 141. If you take the Raptors, you're locked in at plus 118. Now, I do like the Nuggets to win this game, but you know me, I don't like the money line, so I'm staying away from that. I am, however, willing to invest pretty heavily in the spread. The Nuggets are locked in at minus 3-point favorites in this game. The Raptors are plus 3. If you bet on the Nuggets, who are looking at minus 108. For the reasons I just alluded to, the Raptors are ice cold, the Nuggets are red hot. I think 3 points is way too slim of a spread for me to pass up on, especially the value at minus 108. Just for reference, over the last 5 games, the Nuggets are scoring almost 120 points per game at 119.8. The Raptors are only scoring 105.75. They have not been able to find any offense outside of their 5 starters, and the Nuggets have been killing it on offense lately, again, almost scoring 120 points per game. Now, defense tells the exact opposite story. The Nuggets have been pretty locked down as of late. They're only allowing 108.8 points over their last 5 games, and that includes a massive scoring overtime game against the Chicago Bulls in which they allowed 127 points. Outside of that game, they have been absolutely locked down on defense, and now the story does not go the same way for the Tampa Bay Raptors. I'm going to be inconsistent throughout the show. I don't know what to call them. They're the Toronto Raptors. The story is not the same thing for them. They're allowing 116.4 points per game over their past 5 games. So the Nuggets are playing excellent on offense, excellent on defense, and the Raptors are playing less than great on both ends of the ball. So the spread of being minus 3 here, I think, is absolutely ludicrous, and I think that's something that all bettors have to capitalize on. In fact, I like the spread so much, I was a little bit unconfident whether or not to bet the over or the under in this game. The over-under is set at 223.5 points. Yes, the Raptors are utterly unable to score, but they're allowing so many points as of late, and the Nuggets' offense is so hot that I think the Nuggets could almost cover by themselves in terms of, say the Raptors get to 105. I absolutely see the Nuggets getting to 119. So that one was a little bit difficult for me to bet whether or not I want the over or I want the under. So I'm more willing to invest heavily into the spread. I'm not going to take any parlays. I'm not going to take any over-unders. I'm just going to put about $30, probably 6 times more than I would on the spread, because that is one that I am so confident in for this game. But I feel it's necessary to report the 3-way money line at least. So the 3-way money line in favor of the Nuggets is minus 124, plus 133 for the Raptors, and plus 1,400 for a tie. Now, normally I would bet on the 3-way money line instead of the normal money line. The reason being, it accounts for a tie through 4 quarters. So that means if you bet on a team and the game goes into overtime, you lose. It doesn't matter if they even win in overtime. That is the difference between the 3-way money line and the normal money line. But the reason that I always suggest you take the 3-way money line is because only 35 out of 649 games this NBA season have gone into overtime. That's 1 out of every 18.54. And a tie is only reported here at plus 1,400. That means I wouldn't even look at betting on a tie through 4 quarters. That means betting on overtime. I wouldn't even look at that unless that was reflecting the actual likelihood of the games going into overtime throughout the course of the history of this NBA season. I wouldn't look at the betting on a tie unless it were plus 1,854, but it's only plus 1,400. That means Vegas considers a tie through 4 quarters more likely to happen than it actually is, thus driving down the value. But I say this every show, everything is inversely related. That means that they're driving up the value of a game not going into overtime if you're going to bet on a team through 4 quarters and not overtime. The reason being, considering the fact that they think overtime is more likely to happen than it actually is, they consider a game ending in regulation less likely to happen than it actually is, thus driving the value of those bets up. I always advise you take the 3-way money line. Now, on to some player props. Starting with the Denver Nuggets, we're going to talk about Jamal Murray. This is the bet that I've been taking lately. I took this last game. There was a while where I was hesitant to bet on Jamal Murray. He was really sluggish coming out of the All-Star break, but he seems to have absolutely found his form. He had the same exact odds and the same over under 4 points last night, and I took the over and it hit. I'm taking it again. He had 21 points in the last game. The over under is set at 20.5. What's crazy about it is it seems close, but he was missing a lot more shots than he normally would. He wasn't great from the field, and in addition to that, he even missed a dunk that would have made this bet, so much more of a slam dunk. It would have made it so much more. You could have been more confident in it rolling into today if he had 23 points versus 21 points, but he missed a dunk. He was shooting not super well from the field. I'm still absolutely willing to take the over that Jamal Murray exceeds 20.5 points. The over is locked in at minus 113. Again, in the last game, he had 21 points. Over the last week, he's averaging 24.3 points. And over the last 30 days, he's averaging 21.6. So he's been stepping it up a little bit as of late, especially since he came out super sluggish after the All-Star break. I'm taking the over for Jamal Murray points. On to Will the Thrill Barton. There was only one bet that I'm taking for him, and I'm taking the over on his combined points, assists, and rebounds, locked in at 23.5. Same exact odds, or not quite the same odds. Last night it was minus 107 for the over. Tonight is minus 113 for the over. Not enough of a difference for me to stray away from it, especially considering the fact that this has been a great bet as of late. Now, Will Barton has exceeded this mark of 23.5 combined points, assists, and rebounds in 8 out of his last 10 games. Last night he had 24, so it was a little bit closer than it had been previously, but last night he had 24. Over the last week, he's averaging 26.3, and over the last 30 days, he's averaging 24.2. And again, I can't stress this enough. Over the last 10 games, Will Barton has hit this mark of 23.5 combined points, assists, and rebounds in 8 of those 10 games. I'm taking the over there. I'm also taking the over, and there is, just like the Will Barton bet, there's very good history that suggests you should take the over for this bet as well. I'm taking the over for Michael Porter Jr. points, locked in at 16.5. The over is set at plus 100. Why the over is set at plus 100, I do not know. It should be something closer to minus 135. It should be in that range, but it's plus 100, which means you put $1 down, it wins, you get $1 back. And the reason I advise that you take this bet is that Michael Porter Jr. has exceeded this mark of 16.5 points in 8 out of his last 8 games. There is a trend, and there is a trend that we can absolutely love if we want the over for Michael Porter Jr. In the last game, he had 18 points. Over the last week, he's averaging 20.5, and over the last 30 days, he's averaging 19.1. He should absolutely exceed this mark of 16.5 points, and all the numbers in the recent history of the Nuggets schedule suggest that you should take the over here. I'm taking the over at plus 100 for Michael Porter Jr. points. On to Paul Millsap. Now, unfortunately, that all of my bets that I report off of are based on Bet Rivers. Unfortunately, Paul Millsap is not listed for 3-pointers. Last game, we took the under at 0.5 3-pointers at plus 156. We knew it was too good of a bet to pass up on, and now apparently Vegas knows that that's too good of a bet too. Paul Millsap is getting such limited minutes that he's shooting like 1 3-pointer per game, and data suggests, his percentage suggests that he's likely to miss that single 3-pointer he takes. Plus 156 for the under was absolutely ludicrous, especially considering the fact that he's only hit 1 3-pointer in his last 4 games. We would have bet on that. I would have told you to bet on that, but unfortunately it is unavailable. There is one more Paul Millsap bet that I am comfortable with taking, and yes, it is under due to the lack of minutes that he has been playing as of late. I'm betting that he gets less than 13.5 combined points, assists, and rebounds. What is my rationale for that? He's barely been playing, and we're playing against a small team in the Toronto Raptors. Their biggest player their biggest starter is Pascal Siakam, and then it looks like OG Anunoby is going to be playing the power forward position when he's truly a small forward. Paul Millsap is too big to be on the court against these guys, and I don't think he should get that many minutes. Coach Michael Malone, even though he does struggle with rotations at times, I think he knows better than to play Paul Millsap big minutes in this game, so I'm taking the under on his combined points, assists, and rebounds. In the last game, he only had 6 combined points, assists, and rebounds. Over the last week, Paul Millsap is only averaging 9.8 combined points, assists, and rebounds, and over the last month, he's only averaging 11.8. So that mark of 11.8 over the last month is under this mark of 13.5, and it's only been trending down. I am taking the under for Paul Millsap, combined points, assists, and rebounds. Now on to the best player on the Nuggets. I think he's the MVP. He's the MVP in my heart. Big honey, Nikola Jokic. I'm taking two different bets with him, and yes, they're both the over, so we can rejoice as Nuggets fans that we get to cheer for a good Nikola Jokic game. Now, I'm betting the over on his made three-pointers, locked in at plus 125. Now, truly, I think it's 50-50 whether or not he gets one two-pointer or two three-pointers. He's locked in at 1.5 for this game. In the last game, he had two. He's averaging 1.8 over the last week. He's averaging 1.6 over the last 30 days and over the season. So he's hovering right around this mark of 1.5. That's why I think it's truly 50-50 which side of this 1.5 over under that he lands on top of. But I love the over bet simply because the value is too good to pass up on. Plus 125 for something that I consider 50-50 is a bet that I will take 10 times out of 10. I'm betting the over on Nikola Jokic three-pointers at 1.5. I'm also taking the over on his rebounds. Now, unfortunately, at 10.5 rebounds in the last game last night, he was locked in at plus 110. If you want to bet the over on 10.5 rebounds in this game, you're unfortunately only getting odds of minus 127. So Vegas is learning. They're shifting their values. We learned that with the Paul Millsap bet. I'm going to tell you about another bet that Vegas has really caught on to only in this game I've seen so far. But yes, they're catching on to the rebounds. I'm still betting the over. Minus 127 is not bad enough odds for me to stray away from it, but it's way worse than last night. That said, last night he had 15 rebounds. He's averaging 12.5 over the last week. He's averaging 11.6 over the last 30 days, 11.3 over the course of the season. I can say with absolute confidence that I do think Nikola Jokic will get at least 10.5 rebounds, especially considering the fact that Pascal Siakam is starting at center. Spicy P is starting at center for the Toronto Raptors. He has the same wingspan as Nikola Jokic, but he's way smaller. He weighs a lot less than Nikola Jokic. He won't be able to bang down low with Nikola Jokic. It's way different than the matchup of last night. It's not going to be big Nikola Vucevic, contesting rebounds. It's going to be skinny-ass Pascal Siakam. Nikola Jokic is absolutely going to get his. And even on top of that, the Raptors are a jump-shooting team, and they've been shooting the ball poorly as of late. Nikola Jokic will have every rebound opportunity that he wants. I see him absolutely exceeding this mark of 10.5. That'll do it for the Nuggets side of the ball. On to the Tampa Bay Toronto Raptors side of the ball for this game. There's one bet that I like for everyone except for OG Anunoby. One podcaster who I really admire, shout out Josh Lloyd, he calls him the Jedi because his name is OG Anunoby. That sounds eerily similar to Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I'm betting on everyone. I'm to have one bet for every single Raptors player in this game that I think is good, except for the Jedi. I don't like the values reported at the different over-unders. There are a few that I think he will get, say he gets. I do think that he will exceed 12.5 points pretty handily, but I don't love the value attached to that. So that is my rationale for not betting on the Jedi. I apologize to you defensive fans because he is a stellar defensive player. Let's start with Kyle Lowry. He's locked in at 6.5 assists. The over is set at minus 139. I am taking the over despite the less than great value, and let me tell you why. He's averaging 7.6 assists on the season, and that has been trending up. He's averaging 9.6 over the last 30 days, 8.8 over the last week, and he had 8 in the last game. All of those marks are well above this mark of 6.5, and they're only trending up. While the value isn't great at minus 139, I absolutely think he exceeds 6.5 assists in this game. On to Fred VanVleet. I'm taking the over on his points at 19.5, locked in at minus 113. Over the season, he's averaging 20.1. Over the last 30 days, he's averaging 20. Over the last week, he's averaging 19.8, but he had 27 in the last game. He is going to hoist up a number of threes in this game. And he's likely to have, Jamal Murray is likely to be guarding Kyle Lowry. I guess that it's going to be Will Barton guarding Fred VanVleet. Will Barton he's pretty good on defense. He's good man-to-man, but he's a little bit of a knucklehead. And we know how many pick and rolls the Raptors like to run around the perimeter to get their shooters open. Despite the fact that they've been struggling as of late, they do have excellent shooters, and they are a well-coached team, coached by Nick Nurse. Fred VanVleet is going to confuse Will Barton on a lot of these outside perimeter pick and rolls. There are going to be a lot of screens to get Fred VanVleet open, and Will Barton, well, he's good man-to-man in an ISO situation. I don't like his, defensive IQ when it comes to coming over the screen, when it comes to If there's a switch, sometimes he runs to the wrong dude. I don't like Will Barton to contest Fred VanVleet super heavily from the three-point line. I think Fred VanVleet exceeds this mark of 19.5 points, locked in at 113. On to Norman Powell, another sharpshooter on the Toronto Raptors. Now, I'm not taking any points bets for him. I'm not taking any three-point bets for him. I'm taking the under on rebounds. He is likely to be lined up at small forward for the Toronto Raptors. And yes, I know it's positionless basketball, but he's likely to get the defense of Michael Porter Jr. in this game, especially when the starters are lined up against each other. Now, this is also, side note, this is why I think that Paul Millsap should not get heavy minutes in this game. The Raptors are running a really small lineup. They have 2 forwards and 3 guards. I think we would be foolish not to play Michael Porter Jr. a lot at the 4 and also run a 3-guard rotation. We should have Facu, Jamal, and Will Barton starting at the guard positions, and then we should have MPJ at the 4 and Jokic at the 5. I know that will not be the case, and this is why I do think that Norman Powell, he will have a good offensive day, but he will struggle from rebounds considering the fact that he will be getting boxed out by Michael Porter Jr., who is not only significantly taller, he is a way more avid glass crasher. I'm betting the under on his rebounds, and also recent stats suggest that you should take the under for Norm Powell here as well. He had 2 rebounds in the last game. He's averaging 3 over the past week. He's averaging 3.1 over the last 30 days, and only 3 over the course of the season. So all of those are below this mark of 3.5. Yes, you're only getting medium good odds at minus 127, but this is another bet that I'm confident in. We're skipping the Jedi. Final player that we're going to be talking about individually in this game is Pascal Siakam. They call him Spicy P. A little side note, there has been a little bit of drama between Pascal Siakam and his head coach, Nick Nurse. At least that is only, based off the rumors that I have been reading as of late. Pascal Siakam is frustrated. He is a pretty good, he's better than pretty good. He's a stellar player. He's the former most improved player. He's been an all-star. Pascal's had a frustrating season. He's taken 4 buzzer-beating shots that would give the Raptors the win, and all 4 of them have rimmed out. I'm serious. All 4 of them have been super close. The most recent one was a 3-pointer, and it went around the rim like 3 times. The dude's been struggling. It's been frustrating for him, and apparently there has been some tension between him and his coach. Also, considering the fact that he will be banging elbows down low with Nikola Jokic, I don't think he gets a lot of counting stats, considering the fact that Nikola Jokic has hands like the Flash. He's number 5 in the league in terms of steals. He will be clogging up so many of those passing lanes for Pascal Siakam to get his normal assists, and he's not going to let Pascal Siakam get that many rebounds. He is a way bigger body. He's going to be scoring almost every single time when he shoots in the low post, so Pascal won't have any of those easy defensive rebounds, and Pascal's not going to get too many offensive rebounds considering the fact that Nikola Jokic is excellent at boxing out, he's excellent at using his hands, and he's a way bigger body. I'm betting the under on Pascal Siakam points, assists, and rebounds. He's set at 30.5. The under is locked in at minus 120. Yes, in the last game he had 34 combined points, assists, and rebounds, but over the last week he's only averaging 27.6, and over the last 30 days he's only averaging 26.1. That means over the course of the last 3 games, Pascal Siakam has only reached this mark of 30.5 one time. That's 1 out of every 3 games. If he's only hitting this at a 33.3% rate, then I like the odds of minus 120 in favor of the side that is 66.6. So I'm betting the under on Pascal Siakam there. Now, before we do our patented tip-off analysis, I'm going to discuss Nikola Jokic's double-double odds, and let me tell you, something very terrible has happened, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Now, I have never seen Nikola Jokic have double-double odds worse than minus 400. In fact, the worst I've seen him is at minus 385. That is why I tell you to bet $100 on Nikola Jokic to get a double-double every single night. At the odds last night, if you bet $100 at the odds last night, every single game this NBA season, you would be up for a net gain of over $865. Now, I always say this, I put it on Instagram, I say, keep doing this until Vegas learns. I think Vegas is learning. He's only reported at minus 500 for a double-double in this game. That is way worse odds than I've seen throughout any game over the course of this NBA season. Is it due to the fact that he will easily get 10.5 rebounds, considering the fact that he is going against this way smaller Pascal Siakam? Potentially. Or Vegas is just learning that they're losing a lot of money by people like us who know Nikola Jokic, who know the rate. He's hitting double-doubles at a rate of almost 91% over the course of this NBA season. You have to bet on this every night. So with the odds of minus 500, all it did was require some number crunching to see if it was still worth it to bet $100 every night. And unfortunately, the odds are way worse than they have been, but it is still worth it. At minus 500, if you put $100 down every night, you would win $20. You'd get $20 every single time he hits. 20 times 39 is 780, but then you have to account for the 4 times that he would not hit this bet. He has not hit a double-double in 4 games. 780 minus $400 is 380, so you would still be up pretty big. You would be up $380. If you bet on this every single game at these odds of minus 500, it is still absolutely worth it, but unfortunately, Vegas decided not to line our pockets as fat as they have been as of late. So I'm still telling you to take that bet, but be a little bit wary. I hope that Vegas isn't really learning, and I hope this doesn't continue trending into territory that is worse value. On to our tip-off analysis. Now, it will be Nikola Jokic versus Spicy P, Pascal Siakam. I have no idea why they're starting him at center. I mean, they're definitely missing Marc Gasol. I don't know why it's not going to be Chris Boucher. It's been Chris Boucher in a few games as of late. It's been Aaron Baines in a few games as of late. But over the course of the last 3 games, it has been all Pascal Siakam on the tip-off, and he has not been very good. He lost to Jared Allen, who was actually a difficult task. He also lost to Rudy Gobert, who Nikola Jokic actually beat in their most recent game, but he won his most recent tip-off against Christian Wood. Now, Nikola Jokic he was struggling a little bit, and we predicted last night that he would lose to Nikola Vucevic. We told you to bet on the Orlando Magic to score first, considering the fact that Nikola Vucevic was going to win the tip-off. We knew that on the Denver dollar, so the Orlando Magic had every opportunity to score first. Over the course of the season, we are at 22 of 29 games predicting who will win the tip-off. That is almost a 76% hit rate, so we tend to know, and I'm going to say you can bet on Jokic in this game, despite the fact that he has never had a tip-off against Pascal Siakam, so we can't reach back into our back pocket like Nikola Vucevic last night. We looked back all the way through 2017 for their individual tip-off matchups to know that Nikola Vucevic is a better man at the tip-off. He tends to beat Nikola Jokic when they fare head-to-head. So Pascal Siakam, we don't have the luxury to kind of look at that, but both players have the same wingspan. Obviously, Pascal has a higher vertical leap, but Nikola Jokic is way more experienced on the tip-off. You're not supposed to jump until the ball reaches its max height, and sometimes players do get called because they jump early, but for whatever reason, Nikola Jokic is an animal. He knows when to jump that is still early. He jumps before the other player almost every single time. But what's crazy about it is the ref never calls it because I don't know if he's cute and he's Nikola Jokic. I don't know if it's because he's such a vet and he times it perfectly that it's still questionable whether or not he jumps early, even though he does. But Pascal Siakam is not an experienced tip-off man, and I do think that Nikola Jokic's veteran experience on the tip-offs will secure him the victory. I don't even think Pascal's going to jump by the time Jokic gets it. They're going to throw the ball, and Jokic is going to touch it before Pascal even jumps. Forget about the athleticism. That's not going to matter. It's going to be Nikola Jokic in this game winning the tip-off, and again, you can trust me. I am at about a 76% hit rate on who will win the tip-off. Now, why do we do this tip-off analysis? It is the best indicator of who will score first in any given game. A lot of betting sites, a lot of betting analysts don't talk about this specific thing because it's oftentimes seen as random. Well, guess what? It is not random. We know things here on the Denver Dollar that other, analysts, other betting sites, they don't even look into. So, we do our whole tip-off analysis. We're hitting our tip-offs at a 76% rate. That means we know who's going to get the ball first, and that is the best indicator of who's going to score first. We think Jokic is winning the tip. We know that we think that the Nuggets are getting the ball first. That means the Nuggets will have every opportunity to score first, and I'm going to bet that the Nuggets score first at minus 125. That will be another $5 bet for me here on the Denver All right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for the show today. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the listen, you found it interesting, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all of that nonsense. And if you have friends that are, I always say this every show, if you have friends that are interested in winning money, or if you have friends that are basketball fans or Nuggets fans, tell them about the show. If you don't have friends that are if you have friends that aren't Nuggets fans, and if you have friends that don't like winning money, I think you need to absolutely reconsider who your friends are. But other than that, let them know about the show, let them know about me. We're pretty good. Last night we hit 10 out of 12 bets. We were up big last night. The only two bets we lost were on non-Nuggets players. We're on Nikola Jokic over on rebounds and Evan Fournier over on rebounds. So if the Raptors have a difficult night from our player prop perspective, I might think about straying away from betting on, the opposing team. But we've had excellent success here on the Denver Dollar. You can tell I do the research, and I would love it if you would recommend me to anyone interested in sports that you know. Once again, thank you so much for listening to the show. Until next time.